Hey peeps, well, it's that time of year where we're going into reflection and projection mode, where we reflect on the past and learn the lessons and distill all the insights that we've gathered from the year. And then we project into the future and imagine what we could do and who we could become if only everything went perfectly. And there's this little exercise that I originally learned from Matt Church, who shared it at a Thought Leaders Immersion. And it's something that I've returned to pretty much every year over the holiday period as a really useful way of just reflecting on my life as it presently is and giving me some insight into how I might like to tweak it heading into the future. So it's super simple. It'll take like 5 minutes total. Let's get into it. So you only need a piece of paper and a pen, and that's it. And what you do is you take your piece of paper and you divide it in half vertically and horizontally. So you've got 4 squares, and now you divide all them in half vertically and horizontally as well. Again, so you end up with 16 squares. And the first part of the task is to put the 16 most important things in your life into those squares. So these can be people or groups of people. These can be activities. These can be states of mind. These can be your work, your play, anything at all. Just the first 16 things that come to mind that are the most important components of your life. And you've got to write them all down in 2 minutes. So grab your phone, put a 2-minute timer on it, and then write down the first 16 things that come to mind. Don't think too much about it. In my opinion, kind of the moment something springs to mind, it probably deserves to go on the list. So set your timer and then pause this video and come back in 2 minutes time when you've got 16 things written in the squares. Go. Okay, so now you've got 16 of the most important components or people or activities or things in your life written in the boxes. And the next thing you're going to do is reflecting on the last 12 months. You're going to give yourself a score out of 10 in every single box. So again, give yourself like a minute, pause this video and give yourself a score out of 10 in every single box. Go. Okay, so now you've got every box scored out of 10. And what I recommend you do now is go to any of them that have got a 7 in them and cross out the 7, and you have to move the score to either an 8 or a 6. And the reason is because for most people at least, this doesn't have to be true for you, but it probably is. For most people, 7 is the answer we give when we're not willing to really commit. And so forcing us to choose either 8 or 6 essentially forces us to really look at it and go, am I above or below the line on this thing? So go back and anywhere where you gave yourself a 7, cross it out, commit to either an 8 or a 6. Go. All right, so you've now got the 16 things that are most important to you in your life, and you've got a dimensionless, somewhat arbitrary score, but adjudicated by you as to whether you are presently in the life that you're actually leading over the last 12 months, whether you're kind of doing well in that space or not. And what I want you to do now, in like a 10-second period, you almost need to rush through this. Just look down at the page and circle the top 5 most important things in your life. Do it like that, okay? And what I reckon you want to do then is have a look at those top 5. Do any of them, or which ones of them, have you given yourself a score of 6 or below? And if you're going to change anything in your life that's going to have a material improvement on the quality of your life, I reckon that's the place you want to look. And then, anywhere else where you've scored yourself a 6 or below, but particularly if you're down in the 2s, the 3s, the 1s, any kind of change in that space could have a massive impact on how you feel about your life. You don't have to get it up to an 8 or a 9 in a year. Just bump the needle a tiny bit. And in my experience, moving from like improving a 1, a 2, or a 3 by even a tiny amount in a kind of measurable sense has an immeasurably positive impact on how you feel about it in a subjective sense. So I find this a really useful exercise to do every year. I've got heaps of them in my notebook stretching back over nearly a decade. and I hope you found it useful, and hat tips again to Matt from Thought Leaders, which is where I first learned it.